Come up.
Good afternoon. Just want to tell you a few things about what's happening in Legionville. To start out with, we held our board meeting last weekend, and we decided to split the duties of have a camp director and a camp manager. The camp manager will be responsible for the properties up there, all the buildings, maintenance, and everything else. The camp director will run school safety patrol sessions for that 8 weeks. And we'll probably employ that person for about, Laura said the last time they did it for about 8 months on a part-time basis, because you got the hiring and the training to do of all the people that come into that. And then the other thing, we just hired a new individual to take over the camp. He'll start on November 1st. He's from Eden Valley. And we had 5 applicants that had applied. We went through and interviewed them. There was 4 in the committee to interview them. And we feel this is kind of the cream of the crop. Feel it'll work out good for Legionville and everything associated with it. And then have Officer Neal with us that's going to explain a little bit about the training. He's one of the main officers that does the training up at Legionville, along with a couple other ones. But he's got a PowerPoint put together for us and some other information. So, Officer Neal.
Thank you, Wayne. Well, good afternoon. It's a great turnout here, and I got asked to come down from Wayne and Randy Tesdell to talk about what happens up at Legionville, and I said absolutely I'll come down and talk to the Legion members here and explain what we do up at Legionville. I put together this PowerPoint. It was kind of a real quick thing, so if it's not perfect, it was really fast, kind of last minute things. I've been a little bit busy, but just to talk about the Legionville that we have up in just north of Brainerd is, I've been doing this for about 4 years now. So basically there's 3 of us Minnesota State Troopers that do this. We're all public information officers, so we really are not responsible for working the road. We do media events, we do presentations around the state of Minnesota. So I have all Northeast Minnesota, so I stay pretty busy with the media, keeping them updated, doing radio shows. I got a couple radio shows called Ask the Trooper type of stuff, and you should hear some of the questions that come in. It's amazing. Let me ask you guys a question. Can you drive barefoot in Minnesota?
Yes, you can.
There's no law against driving barefoot in Minnesota. I always thought there was when I first got my driver's license a few years ago.
Especially in January.
Especially in January, it's not a good idea, right? So, but you guys would be shocked at things I've seen in my 21 years as being a state trooper. One of the funniest, I got this asked on the radio, is what's one of the funniest things that you've seen out there? So I didn't really think about it because a lot of them aren't real funny. But at the time it wasn't funny. I'm driving, I started up in Cook County up on the North Shore of Lake Superior. And there's not much for traffic up there. I think there's more moose than cars up in that area. But I was following this car, and all of a sudden, something comes flying out of the car. It hits my wet windshield right where I'm driving. It's a banana peel from the car in front of me. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Right? So, of course, I stop the car. I walk up to the driver. It's a husband and wife. The husband's driving. And I says, do you know why I stopped you, sir? He said, tell me my wife's banana peel didn't hit your car. I took him out of the car, and it was right on my windshield still. I said, yes. He goes, oh my. He says, can you chew her butt for me? So I walk up to the passenger side, and I let her know that it's illegal to be throwing any type of material outside of your vehicle. And do you know where that banana peel hit? Right where I'm driving. So it was kind of a unique situation that we dealt with. I've got a few more stories, but I can't tell you those. The rating on it anyway. But a little bit about Legionville, and this is something we talk to the kids about when they get there. We average anywhere from 60 and we can go up to 100 kids per session up at Legionville. I'm one of the troopers that spend the week up there. I call it a paid vacation. As I bring my RV, if you guys know what Legionville is, and I'll put it right by the lake, and it's a win-win for me. I get paid for it. I work with the kids, and then I bring my pontoon up there. I get to go fishing and get paid for it. Right? So it's a great opportunity for me. I really enjoy it. I'm retiring in about 3.5 years, so I'm going to miss that. So maybe I can come around when I'm retired. But Wayne will put me to work up there. There's a lot of work to be done up at Legionville, so I got to be careful what I do. But anyway, Legionville started in Minnesota. Sister Carmela was down in St. Paul, started school patrol. And the American Legion got involved. And I don't know the dates. I want to say it was in the 50s or something, because they used to be in a camp. At Camp or St. Paul. Then it went to Camp Ripley. And then from Camp Ripley, Legionville was built, and Legionville is just a perfect place for that. A lot of room, they have the dining facility, they have housing up there. The kids have a blast when they go up there. And plus, our job is they can't just swim all day and play ball and all that. They actually are up there to learn. So what we do is we teach them school patrol duties so they don't get hurt, they don't get killed. And we talk to them about being a leader out there. Right? And we really get an opportunity to talk to them and stress that. Be proud of being a school patrol member, because most of the school patrol members that come in there were selected by their school administration or their staff members. So we really push that to the kids. Be proud of it. When you put on that school patrol uniform, be proud. Right? It's like me wearing my uniform. When I was in the Army, it was the same way. Be proud of what you've earned that. So we really push that with the kids. Little stats there. Legionville is celebrating 80 years of school patrol. That's a long time. There's only 2 times that it was shut down. That was for World War II. And then last year, of course, you guys heard about the bog that decided to come on in.
The bog.
Wait, I got some pictures for you here. Here's the bog master to my left. And I personally want to thank Randy Tesdell, Wayne, and whoever else helped try to get that bog away from our swimming facility, the swimming area. So last year was only the 3rd time in the American Legion or Legionville that they actually closed the facility. And Randy, believe me, they were trying to get this moved so we can keep the camp going. And it was an impossible task. I actually brought my pontoon up there with a 60-horse motor. It wasn't moving anything, right? I actually got my pontoon pinched because we actually moved the bog a little bit, and it pinched my pontoon, so I was stuck. Randy was snickering, I think, at me. I could hear him, but he did come and get my boat out of there. So you can see that's my pontoon with the green. The picture's kind of grainy, but it was quite the process to get that thing moved. And with all the great effort from the Lake Association, with Randy, with the local tow companies, it was absolutely amazing. The teamwork that was developed to get this thing moved. I invited Randy on one of the local radio shows in Brainerd, and he had a good opportunity. We talked about American Legion, what they do, what's Legionville about. We're always trying to promote Legionville to get the kids to come to camp, right? We're not full every session. We'd like to see that get filled. So you can see here, this is where the boats were trying to tug this thing, right? Yep. And it looked like you could, by this picture, there's no way we're moving that thing, right? But underneath it really wasn't rooted in, right, Randy?
No, it was, there was water underneath, everything except for a few small pieces about the size of the stage that were touching the ground.
Sure. You know what was interesting that day I was up there? There was a reporter from the Metro, from the Twin Cities. Was he from WCCO, Randy? I don't remember. Yep. He's riding with Randy. So Randy has his chainsaw out, and there was mud flying everywhere. And this guy was all dressed up. He looked good. And he's in Randy's boat, and then the DNR had a boat up there. And the last time I saw him, looked like he was in a mud wrestling pit. It was actually comical. And I asked him, I said, "Did you volunteer for this?" He says, "No, I was kind of selected." So it was interesting to see, but he was up there to film it, and the media did a wonderful job on trying to get people up there to help. But we got it moved. I was up there. I didn't move it, but everybody did a great job on getting that thing out of there. So realistically, let's go back to the training. So what do we teach these kids? We're doing school patrol duties, right? We're teaching them the basics so they don't get hurt out there. We talk about the history. We've got the equipment. They're captains, so when they go back to their school, we expect them to be leaders and teach the other kids on how to do school patrol duties. so everybody's safe up there. We talk about emergency procedures. What happens if somebody gets hit by a car out on there? There's basic first aid that the local EMTs from the Crow Wing County area, I believe, come in and teach these kids some basic first aid. School bus patrol, school bus safety, we get into that. We filmed a video up there, Department of Public Safety along with State Patrol. We filmed an evacuation video, which we are going to use, and it's available statewide. So we had Riker, the local bus company, come over and tip one of their, hopefully it was a bad bus. It was a bus they put on its side. And the kids got the experience. What happens if the bus gets turned over? How do you get out of there? So we show them the emergency evacuation points of the school bus. I thought it went really, really good. They also shot a video on school patrol duties, and I was the lead actor, and I'm going to tell you guys, I am not an actor. It was awful. They would give me a line to memorize, right? I couldn't do it. These 10-year-old kids were nailing it, and I couldn't do it. So I got a little bit of heck from the DPS guys. But. So that video will be available as well. So switch it over. So again, we talk about emergency situations up at Legionville, so we get these kids prepared. Switch it again. Pedestrian safety, it's another thing we talk about. And they're out there. What is the law when it comes to pedestrians in a crosswalk?
They have the right of way now.
Who has the right of way? The pedestrians? A lot of people don't know that around the state. You'd be surprised. So we talk to the kids about, if you're going to cross the street, you do it at an intersection, correct? Especially with Halloween coming up. How about if there's not a marked crosswalk? Can pedestrians, they still have the right of way?
Yes.
You guys are good. I like this. Like I said, a lot of people don't realize that. So we talk about bicycle safety too, right? They're part of traffic. Anytime you're on a bicycle, you have to obey all the traffic rules. And the kids didn't realize that. Okay? You can switch that over. We talk about school bus safety. I went over that. Go ahead. Seatbelt safety. We have a rollover simulator, and the kids can't ride it. We put some mannequins in there, and it's part of a front end of a pickup that spins. And what we do is we demonstrate when someone has a seatbelt on how it keeps them in that rollover contraption, and then we'll take the seatbelt off. And then you can see the mannequins that fly out of there. I think it's a great illustration for the kids, right, when it comes to that. So they really enjoy that as well. We talk about this. This is the number one thing we have a problem with in Minnesota. This is our number one contributing factor why people are crashing today. Has anybody done that where that gal's doing it? No one's going to admit it anyway, right? When I do my TV appearances, I should be doing that, right? But let me ask you this, that gal that's in there, what is kind of violation is she committing in Minnesota with our laws?
Distracted driving.
There's really no law against. She's over 18 years of age. She can be on her cell phone.
Yeah, she's farting.
She's what?
Farting.
Farting?
Farting.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference. There's a difference. Farting is put on makeup.
Okay, there's no law against, if that's just coffee in there, right? There's no vodka in there, she's good, right?
Doesn't she need one hand on a wheel?
There's no law that says you have to have both hands on your wheel. You have to be physical control of that car.
She said one.
But is that a good idea?
But no, it says no hands on the wheel.
That's not a good idea, but there's no law against that.
Really?
Okay?
She doesn't even
Yes,
have one
but
eye on the road.
if there's driving conduct that leads to some kind of careless action,
Absolutely.
done for careless driving.
Now we can use this, and we're going to use that as a contributing factor. Are you going to catch our attention? Yes. Okay. We'll probably find some equipment violation or something to stop and we call it educating the driver. But there's only one violation, if you want to go back, that I see that she's violating. Outstanding. You used to be a police officer, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. But yeah, no seatbelt. And we preach seatbelts because we got like a 94% compliance rate in Minnesota, which is great. But that 6% of people decide not to wear a seatbelt. That's the number one crash that I've gone to in my career, is a one-car rollover where someone doesn't have a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
Okay, so wear those seatbelts. And we're trying to get these kids to that ingrained in their system when they're young kids, and most of them are really good about it. It's the older generation that has the issue of wearing seatbelts. Do you guys remember the day when the state of Minnesota says you're gonna wear your seatbelt?
Yeah.
What did you think about that? That guy in the maroon pants isn't gonna tell me what to do, right? It wasn't a primary law then, which means if we saw someone without a seatbelt on, we couldn't stop you unless we had another violation. Now it's a primary law, we can stop people for that. And we look for that seatbelt that's dangling there, that big shiny buckle. And when people go up real slow to grab that seatbelt to put it on, we pretty much have you. So wear your seatbelts is what I'm trying to say. This year, in the past, we've done this as well. We have this scheduled for last year's. We have our airwing section with the Minnesota State Patrol. We do have a couple of helicopters. We have some fixed-wing planes. And the pilots were set up last year, and they're going to do it again this year. I talked to the lieutenant on getting this to happen again. Every Wednesday, they're going to land a helicopter so the school patrol kids can watch the landing. And then they get an opportunity to go tour or look at the helicopter. And then the pilot does a great job on talking to the kids and explaining what he does. So I think it's a really cool feature that our supervisors let us do that. And the kids get an opportunity to see the helicopter. Okay? And then we also are going to have a canine demonstration. I set that up. We have narcotic detecting dogs with the State Patrol. They're not bite dogs. Okay? And we're going to set up a demo so that kids can see our dogs actually go to work. So the kids will enjoy that as well. Okay? Well, so we're good on that. That's just my future plans at Legionville. What I'd like to see is when Legionville was closed last year, I got a lot of phone calls from staff members from schools wanting to know, hey, is there an adult type of program where you can teach us, where we can bring that back to the schools too? So I thought about that. I said, hopefully it doesn't take the place of the kids coming up, but I don't think it will. So we're going to work on getting something like that set up with maybe some of the school officials. And then if they're going to drive up to Legionville, let's make a day out of it. So my plan is maybe to give them some quick first aid on if somebody gets hit by a car out by their school districts, what can they do? How do they save somebody's life? And then we have the active shooter. This is just my thoughts on this. Maybe we got experts in this field where we can have somebody come in and just give a quick presentation. What happens if somebody comes into your school that has a firearm? And how do they handle it? I know the school gets some training now, but we can bring in some experts too on what to do. Especially if you're in charge of those school patrol kids out in the corners. What happens if something happens in the school and you got kids out there doing school patrol duties? So I think this would be a great opportunity as well to talk to the school staff on that. I have a meeting with one of the school personnel in the Duluth area coming up shortly on this. So maybe we can get that incorporated as well. So that's pretty much it as far as Legionville goes. Does anybody have any questions? You guys got to have some questions. Yes?
I'll just ask one. So, Sergeant, I was curious on the pullovers for narcotics with dogs.
Yes.
Since we did just have the Minnesota Department of Health here, and a doctor talked about the cannabis program.
Okay. Is it legal in Minnesota yet? No.
Well, no, it is.
Oh, medical, yes.
Yeah, medical.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, no, as a serious topic.
Okay.
For instance, to say that I'm using today my medical cannabis that I can use, and I'm driving home, and I get pulled over because maybe it's affected me a little bit.
Sure.
Is it something that I go to jail for? Is it something that a dog could possibly find in my car because it's in a pill form and I'm in trouble for, even though I have my documentation on me?
That's a great question. Let's start off with...
You're welcome, Randy.
So you know a guy. I got set up.
You're like a brother to you.
All right, I'll talk on the serious end of this, and I just did an article. I do the Asset Trooper articles in the northern part of the state, and that was one of the questions somebody had, and I think it's a great opportunity to talk to the public about it. Anything that affects your ability to drive a car, and if it's a substance, if it's legal, if it's, of course, alcohol's the most popular we see. We're seeing a lot of the illegal narcotics in the area. We have a heroin issue in northern Minnesota that's unbelievable right now. People are dying we carry Narcan with the state patrol. Narcan's a nasal spray that brings somebody back from an opioid-induced, basically you're dying, you quit breathing. Duluth Police Department, that's where I work, is out of the Duluth area. They have over 50 known saves already by using Narcan from heroin overdoses. So it's a major issue that we're dealing with. And it starts out with painkillers, right? And then it just progresses into something harder. Same with fentanyl. So anything that's going to affect your ability to drive a vehicle safely, you can be arrested for it. And we're seeing a lot more of the narcotics. We're seeing marijuana right now in the Colorado area. I know the State Patrol in Colorado has seen an increase in crashes and DWI arrests for marijuana. So my advice to everybody is if you're on medication or medical marijuana, if it affects your ability to drive or safely or operate a motor vehicle, talk to your doctor about it, because you can be arrested for it. And what's going to happen is if we sense that alcohol is not a factor in it, we're going to ask for a blood or urine test to see exactly what's in the system. And then we send that down the lab, and we got to wait for results to come back when it comes to that. But you're going to go through the field sobriety test. You possibly spend the night in jail too. So that's a great question.
Some blood pressure medicines can affect it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my advice is if you guys are on any type of medication that's going to make you a little woozy, I'll never forget taking Loratab. I had a knee injury years ago, and I felt like I was floating off the couch. Right? So medications affect people differently, right? So just be careful when it comes to that. So
Thank you.
A great question. Thank you.
I have a statement or a question. You had talked about maybe adults in the future, and this is mainly for Wayne, but the thought about maybe in the future having one of the sessions just for adults.
Absolutely. Yeah, and and that's something we're going to be discussing here in the future, and it'd be kind of pretty much the same training program I'm giving the kids. And I think there's really no set training program for school patrol in Minnesota besides Legionville, to my knowledge. So I think if everybody's on the same page, that would be the best thing that we can see. And I don't know about your communities, but where I live, I drive by. I picked my son up from school for years, and to watch the kids that are out there and messing around with the flags, and even the adults that aren't doing it properly, I just cringe, right? So I think there's a need for proper training when it comes to everybody's doing school patrol, so we're all on the same page, right? And it's just, as long as everybody's safe out there, and I think that stat still holds, is nobody's been killed doing school patrol.
No, it's one.
In the Minnesota. Is there one?
It was in Duluth.
That was in West Duluth. That's right. Yes, sir.
If a bus driver is driving along, he has like a heart attack or somebody, that's the first question.
Sure.
They train to safely pull the bus over, shut it off?
Sure, and that's one thing, and that's a great question. The question, if you didn't hear it, what happens if the bus driver has a medical emergency while they're driving? We talk to the kids about that. We show them the radio system. We show them where the air brakes are on the bus. We tell them that we need a leader on that school bus as well. And talk to your school bus driver and tell that to your bus driver, if something happens here, I can help out. I'm going to keep the kids calm for you, right? And it's very important that we teach them too, is if something happens, they all stay together. If they evacuate the bus, because let's be honest, if there's a crash, it's chaos. And we don't want these kids running all over the place. We got to keep them together in one place. And that's something we do talk to and teach them at Legionville.
Second question was this. You're on patrol Halloween night. Have you ever stopped a guy dressed up with a chicken?
I have not, but there's a video. It's Christmas time, and I think it's on our Department of Public Safety website. And Elf got a DWI down in the Minneapolis area. He had the green suit on and the shoes and everything. So that one's kind of comical.
Another question.
Yeah, another question.
A couple more. Use the mic here.
Uh-oh.
Neil,
Yes, sir.
okay, can you explain the PIO's role in the state patrol and how many PIOs are there?
Sure. Like I said, we're in charge of the media, right? So if the media has a bad crash in the area, they're going to call us. And a lot of it's private data. I got to be careful what I release, right? There's 3 of us in the state of Minnesota. I have all northeast Minnesota. Jesse Grable has the northwest area, and Troy Christensen has the southern part. And my boss, Tiffany Nielsen, has the metro area. So between us four, we stay pretty busy when it comes to updating the media. For instance, you know, we just had like a wrong way driver, an elderly driver in Duluth, or in the Carleton County area just a few weeks back, went the wrong way and hit another vehicle and got killed. So the media wants to know about that, but that's an opportunity for us to talk to the public about what happened out there. If there's something like an educational part we can get out there. If someone's not wearing a seatbelt, we're gonna get that information out so we can learn from that crash and maybe we can prevent that stuff in the future. Right now in Minnesota, we just went over 300 fatalities in the state of Minnesota. That's way too many. Last year, so we're ahead of last year's pace. Yeah. We had 358 fatals last year. So we're trying to get those numbers down, right? 0 is what our goal is. I don't know if we'll ever see it.
Towards 0 deaths.
Towards 0 death. I just went to a conference in Mankato that we have all these people that come in and we're trying to get those numbers down. Minnesota's a pretty safe state. I think we're doing a pretty good job here in Minnesota. But again, until we get to 0, we're not gonna let up on it. Yes, sir?
Following up on that, 15 to 20 years ago, the number of deaths in Minnesota due to traffic fatalities was much higher.
Absolutely.
What was it?
I just seen a stat. I give a presentation to new drivers where their parents come in. It's called a point of impact, and I think it's great. I think we're educating our new drivers a lot better. 1968, we had 1,068 fatals in Minnesota.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
1968. I was 1 year old, so I wasn't one of the drivers. Why do you think our numbers are down to 350? We're in the right direction. Seatbelt law, correct?
Better cars.
How about our cars?
Engineering on the road engineering.
Road engineering, right?
Airbags.
Airbags, right? But we have more distractions in our car today than we ever have.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever gotten into a rental car and didn't know how to start it? I have, right? But there's a lot of distractions out there, and that's what we're seeing now is distractions with the younger drivers out there now. But we're right, the cars, the seatbelts. Do you guys remember the station wagon? That maybe you guys own one of those things that's as long as this room here.
Yeah.
Right? I remember having wrestling matches with my brothers and sisters in the back of when my mom was driving. That's how big those cars are, but those weren't really safe. They weren't designed to crumple. Today's cars are designed to crumple, absorb the energy, so the occupants don't absorb all that energy. That's why I think the fatality rate's down. But I think we got a long ways to go still. Yeah.
All the cars that are sold in Canada, I believe the lights are built, have the lights on 24 hours a day, I believe.
Okay.
Is that true?
I'm not sure about Canada. I wish that was the case here.
Okay, well that's what I'm leading up to.
Yeah.
For example, yesterday, it was really tough driving conditions. You would not believe the 200 miles I traveled, how many people did not have their lights on at all.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Now, there's a state law, I believe.
Yes, there is.
If there's wet conditions, you have to have your lights on. Does anybody ever enforce it?
Reduce visibility, there is a law, and yes, we do. You guys see it. When it's foggy out there, how many times have you come up on a car that didn't have their tail lights on? Especially during the day, because our cars have the automatic sensors in the dash, or up on the dash. When it's daytime, the computer doesn't know to turn on all the lights. It's up to Am I getting set up again? But no, we're trying. Absolutely, I think that's a major issue we're dealing with. We're trying. Another thing, scrape your windows and don't drive like a spot like this. We see that a lot. Winter driving's coming up. Please, people, be careful out there. Wear your seatbelts. Slow down. That's what I tell everybody. It's the number one thing you can do when the roads are slippery. One more, yes.
I go to Texas in the winter, and I just see Texas in 2016 had 3,700 traffic fatalities, and almost 700 of them could speak English.
I just got back from a trip in Texas. My wife has family down by Houston. I'm surprised there's not more. If you guys ever drive down this road, it's a different style of driving. We can control what we do, right? That's what we preach in the state patrols. We got to be 100% attentive every time we get behind the wheel, because we have to watch out for the other guy that's not paying attention, that might be impaired, right? So, one more, didn't I say that already? One more.
It's not a question, just a statement. There's an awful lot of new cars out there that don't have signal lights.
They don't have what?
Don't have signals on them.
Signals.
Turn signals.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm getting the shepherd's hook up here. So. Thank you.
Well, as you can see up at Legionville, the kids learn an awful lot that will benefit them in going back to the other school and they're also in life as they go on. And I know there's a few people that want to make some donations to Legionville, so if they'd worked on their way up here at this time, I'd gladly accept them.
That's all right.
No.
All right. On behalf of the Legionville Camporee Committee, we want to thank the entire American Legion family for coming out. I know that this year's, it was challenging right after the National Convention, but Camporee is the opportune time for the family to come together and really enjoy the facilities, have some camaraderie. But thanks to all of you who did come out this year, and due to the fees, I mean, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Thanks to the fees that everyone pays, and I do mean everyone paid to get in, plus all the gambling activities that we did. On behalf of the Camporee Committee, I'd like to present a check, or two checks actually, totaling $4,640.
Mr. Wayne, on behalf of the 10th District, I'm Paul Orson, District Commander. I got $451 from the Friday night hog roast from the 10th District, $200 from as a district donation, and $300 from the Clearwater Post.
Now, I'm not even close to that, but my second project as second district commander project is Legionville, and I'm starting to collect slow but sure on behalf of Dundee Post 386, $25.
Ready, Wayne?
I'm ready, Chuck.
Uh-oh. I gotta open it? Yes, last September, during the Camporee, I was approached about the wall above the kitchen. There's an American Legion emblem up there. What's the other emblem that's up there?
Auxiliary.
No. The SAL. Wayne, on behalf of the riders, I'd like to present you with our symbol. Oh man,
It's upside down.
a rider's symbol for Legion. And I'll even let you keep the carriage horse. And then also on behalf of the riders, when we had our romp up there, Tanya has a check for $310 for you. And I'm going to steal the show from you for a second. Kathy has a $310 check also from the riders romp for Steve Sullivan for his legacy account. Oh, wow, thank you. Appreciate it. Hang that up for us, will you? Will do.
Just for you.
Don't tip it over.
Don't tip it over. Just for your information, we had collected $1,750 from the 6th District Fish Fry that was donated to Legionville also. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. And also, Gene Walker is getting the auxiliary emblem so we can put that up in front of Legionville also. So we'll have the full family up there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne. By the way, part of my project this year as Department Commander is also Legionville. You know, being closed for camp for the kids last year was a major loss of revenue, and yet all the fixed costs remained. So these donations are great, and we need to keep them coming. And as we heard about the bog, and by the way, you know, if you want to go out and play and there's a bog in the way, who are you going to call? Bog Buster. But anyway, we need help cleaning up the beach and stuff too. So that is also